Now let's go over these one by one and just tell me what you know about them.
You mean personally?
Personally. Clint Murchison, tell me what you know about Clint.
Well, Clint I had known, I guess, early since the 48s. And Clint, of course, was a multimillionaire. And how he got his start, and he often talked about it, in Washington, was he married a girl, I'd like to believe her last name was White, out of Tyler, Texas. And the President of the United States at that time would come. There was a connection. I think it was Taft, the best I recall. So Clint's family were old bankers, old money. And with his connection in Tyler, he met Jagger Hoover through these connections, and they became lifelong friends. This is off color, but because knowing Sid Richardson, the other oil man from Athens, Texas, never did marry, and what was the name, Russell, from one of the senators from Georgia, what was his name, Russell, they were all bachelors or single men, and I thought they may have had a little Jagger Hoover. I think they hanky-pankied around.
So you think there was maybe a men's party that went on from time to time?
Oh yeah, they would go to Matagorda off of Bay City in
Matagorda?
Texas. Yeah. They had an island down there, and they'd meet down there and stay, days.
So just all men?
Yep.
Having fun?
Having fun.
What about, well, let's go on down the list. H.L. Hunt.
Oh, I really love that old guy. I go up and down Northwest Highway, and of course he's buried there in Sparkman Hillcrest. But when I met H.L., he parked at the same parking lot that I did off of Irving. We'd walk up the street, and the first real recollection was, of course, the oil men would wear diamond stick pins and their big Stetsons, and they'd drink coffee in this coffee shop. And so it was at Christmas time. The old man come hobbling in, and I said to these very rich people, I said, why don't y'all take up a collection? That old man, it's Christmas, let's have the Christmas spirit. Buy him some clothes. He would wear patches on his arms, And they hoorah'd. They said, don't you know who he is? And I said, well, looks like he needs some help, And then they told me he's the richest man in the world. I've thought about it so often. Here he was, He'd carry a little brown paper bag, and I think, well, God, he's hungry,
Yeah. You couldn't tell him by looking at him that he was very wealthy.
No, never could.
I understood he drove an old car.
He did.
By himself. He drove it.
He did his own chauffeuring.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we parked, of course, at the same parking lot, and I always had a new car and expenses, so I would tip heavily, and the attendants have my car out front, And one day he said, I don't understand it. They never wait on me. And I said, H.L., don't you ever tip them a little bit? Well, no, and I said, I do. That was the secret to it.
Yeah. I understand that sometime before the assassination that H.L. had some flyers or something about, can you tell me about that?
It wasn't, I'm sure everyone has seen this wanted for treason, this John Kennedy flyer. And I got out of my car, and he says, come here, I want to give you something. I still have it, Yeah. I should have had him autograph it. And I looked down, and I said, oh, H.L. I was so naive, I said, you'll get in trouble. You can't do the President of the United States that way. And he said to me, well, the hell I can't. He says, I'm the richest man in the world. And he says, I'm having these passed out in Dallas, and which he did. Downtown Dallas was plastered with those, I'd call them a circular.
Yeah.
I folded mine up and put it in my purse, and
you still got it?
Yes, I still have
Good.
it. If he'd have autographed it, it'd be worth some money.
All right, let's talk about Lydon Johnson. Let's just go into some details about When did you meet Lydon, and how did you meet him? And
at the Adolphus Hotel in let's see, it was the fall of '48. He had been involved in this Box 13 scandal, and which was fraud, and they were having a dinner for appreciation of Lydon, the Democrats, and I was invited. And I was invited because here I was, a real young girl, and every time we had a client that had any advertising dollars, we put them on KTBC Austin, whether they needed it or whether they didn't. A certain amount of the budget would go to KTBC.
That was just understood.
It was understood, and I was told don't ask questions. So early on, I knew there were a lot of political things. So Jess Kellum, who I think at the end later on he really betrayed me, called me and he said, "Put your dancing shoes on. We're going to have a party over at the Adolphus." Well, here I was all excited, and that's when I met Lydon the first time. You know, I always like to tell back in 1936 when President Roosevelt came to Texas to open the Centennial, and my first boss, Fred Florence, and Jesse Jones from Houston was the ones that extended the invitation to Roosevelt. So here I was, just a young child, and my father was very politically minded, so he said, he helped me up on his shoulders so I could see the President of the United States, and as I looked across, there was this handsome guy, and he had this NYA poster, you know, and I was really excited, and I said, "Who is he?" I began to kind of grow up, and so my father identified him. He knew him, I guess, from the newspapers. So then when I met Lydon at the Adolphus Hotel in '48, I could still feel the bells and things. It really excited me. And so when he asked me to dance that night, it was like electricity in my body, and it never ever ceased. Every time I would see him, I would have these physical feelings about him.
Very strong attraction.
There was some kind of a charisma between the two of us, and I can talk about it. Mm-hmm. Yesterday, when we were in downtown Austin, I passed the dress school and I passed the church. I used to, of course, I'm Catholic, and I do believe in confessions, and I'd say, I'm not going to do this anymore. And I'd go right back and do it over and over. It was 21 years that I had the relationship with him.
I understand that you gave birth to one of Lydon's children.
I sure did. It was my son was born December the 27th of 1950. He was as much like his father as anyone could be. And the thing really, of course, I would like to sear some of my conscience,